Hybe has many issues, but the most talked about one, and rightfully so because it's the most serious, is the over-sexualization of their young idols. It's an issue that has been going on far longer than it ever should have. What makes it even more concerning is that this isn't an isolated mistake or a one-time oversight, but a repeated pattern that spans multiple groups, concepts, and years. Time and time again, minors under Hybe are placed in situations that blur appropriate boundaries, whether through choreography, styling, lyrics, or concepts that feel far too mature for their age. And instead of addressing these concerns head-on, the company often allows them to be dismissed, downplayed, or defended by fans as harmless or misunderstood. This conversation isn't about personal taste, moral panic, or hating on idols. It's about accountability, responsibility, and recognizing that young artists deserve protection, not exploitation disguised as artistry or creative freedom. When these patterns keep repeating, it stops being coincidence and starts being a systemic problem that needs to be openly discussed. So instead of keeping this vague, I want to be specific. I'll be going through clear examples, explaining why they're concerning, and addressing the common defenses that always show up whenever this topic is raised. This isn't about attacking idols, it's about holding the system accountable. With that said, let's get into it. Hyein was showing more skin than the 18-year-olds in her group, and she was 14, and then there's Cookie. You guys can keep trying to gaslight me like Min Hee-jin tired too, but it's not going to work. I know that song is not about a cookie. The amount of innuendos in that track is weird, uncomfortable, and completely inappropriate for minors. And none of this makes any sense at all. Trying to convince me that Min Hee-jin and the writers didn't understand what the song meant is gaslighting at its finest. It's insulting to everyone's intelligence. The song was written by English speakers filled with clear innuendos. The idea that the creative team just accidentally stumbled into something inappropriate and somehow missed every obvious red flag is not believable. The fact that Hybe flagged it first, and Min Hee-jin basically said, "I'm doing it anyway," and Hybe replied with "bet," and then didn't fire her on the spot, that's negligence. Pure negligence. Min Hee-jin should have been fired the moment she chose to move forward with releasing that song anyway. Not talked to, not given another chance, not defended with excuses, fired. Because at that point, it stopped being ignorance and became a deliberate decision. When concerns were raised and she still pushed ahead, that responsibility falls squarely on her. What a lot of you conveniently ignore is Hybe's role in all of this. You guys blame Min Hee-jin alone for some reason. Yes, she's weird, but still. Hybe had the authority to stop it. They reviewed it, flagged it, and still allowed it to be released. That's not neutrality, that's complicity. You cannot separate Min Hee-jin's actions from the company that enabled her, protected her. They actively chose not to intervene in a meaningful way. Defending this by saying they didn't know the slang is honestly ridiculous. This isn't obscure language. It isn't niche. People from all over the world recognize the meaning immediately. I'm not American, and I understood it. Many non-English speakers understood it. So the idea that an entire professional team, writers, producers, executives, and creative directors somehow didn't get it is beyond implausible. At some point, you have to stop calling it a misunderstanding and start calling it what it is. A pattern of behavior that prioritizes concepts, shock value, and profit over the safety and appropriateness of minors. When a company repeatedly allows minors to be placed in sexualized or suggestive situations and then defends or minimizes it afterward, that is a systemic issue. Ignoring Hybe's responsibility while placing all the blame on one individual is dishonest. Hybe enabled the environment where this was possible, defended it when backlash came, and sent a clear message that this kind of behavior would be tolerated as long as it made money. That's the real problem. And until people are willing to acknowledge that, nothing is going to change. Moving on to Yoonchae, she was 15 and Garam was 16 while performing inappropriate choreography in their debut song, choreography that was later removed, which should have already been a red flag from the start. It was only removed after backlash. I'm pretty sure it's still present in the music video but removed from performances. And despite the backlash, Yoonchae has continued to be put in questionable outfits, choreography, and song concepts. None of this should be surprising if you actually look at the pattern. Hybe has been doing this with her since the very beginning. I don't really know the specific issue people had with Perfect Night since I personally wasn't interested in it, but even before that, Unforgiven had choreography that felt unnecessarily suggestive, especially the parts that emphasized the lower body. It's the same type of emphasis that YG seems to have copied recently. Then there's Smarter, a choreography that people still downplay to this day, despite how blatantly uncomfortable it was for someone her age. And her stage outfits? If you've seen the outfits she had to perform in last year, you already know exactly what I mean. There's a consistent pattern of stylists giving her clothing, concepts, and choreography that simply aren't appropriate for a minor. So when people pretend this criticism comes out of nowhere or act confused about why fans are concerned, it's honestly frustrating. The signs have been there since debut. People just chose not to pay attention. Then we have Yoonchae. Gnarly didn't just have questionable choices, the song literally included moaning, with her featured in it. I'm not going to play that part in this video because I don't want it taken down, but the fact that Hybe approved this at all, whether they were fully aware or not, is already disturbing. What makes it worse is that the producer openly bragged about where he got the sound from, a weird, inappropriate website, and was proud of adding it. That alone is gross. Hybe consistently puts their minors in compromising situations. Yes, other companies have had similar issues, but I have never seen it happen this frequently and this boldly outside of Hybe. And I've always said Hybe is smart about it, not in a good way, but in a calculated, intentional way. They've learned that some things like blatantly sexual choreography or explicit concepts get called out immediately by both fans and non-fans. So instead, they push boundaries in smaller, less obvious ways. Inappropriate choreography disguised as artistic, styling that doesn't suit a minor, concepts that feel too mature, or details in songs that people overlook. And because these things are subtle, fans defend them no matter what. That's exactly what Hybe counts on. They take advantage of the fact that fans will brush off anything that isn't extreme on the surface. That's how you know it's not accidental ignorance. It's intentional. Hybe knows what they're doing, and the consistency of these decisions proves it. Now, let's address the "I'm her age and I dress like that" argument. Don't come with that. I don't care. That has nothing to do with the actual issue. You're shifting the focus to your personal experience instead of addressing the point. The outfit she was put in is inappropriate for her context, not yours. When you say, "I dress like that," you're making the conversation subjective and centering yourself instead of addressing the concern being raised. No one is discussing your fashion choices. Using yourself as an example doesn't dismiss the concern, and it definitely doesn't make the styling suddenly acceptable. All you're really doing is minimizing the issue. When people raise concerns about a minor's outfit being inappropriate, responding with, "Well, I dress like that too," is dismissive and implies that others are overreacting. It comes across as if you're trying to hand your idol a get-out-of-jail-free card when the discussion isn't about the idol personally. It's about the styling decisions made by adults. Saying, "I wear that too," is a deflection. It doesn't add anything to the discussion, and it's basically an attempt to protect your idol by avoiding the actual issue. It shuts down real conversation by turning a legitimate concern into a personal anecdote that isn't relevant. It also unintentionally frames appropriateness as purely age-based, which is misleading and oversimplified. Just because two people are the same age does not mean their situations are the same. One might be in a school environment while another is performing on stage. Different roles, different contexts, different expectations. Appropriateness depends on the environment, role, and context, not simply age. When someone says, "I'm her age and I dress like that," it implies that age alone determines whether an outfit is appropriate. But age is only one factor, and often not the most important one. Oversimplifying the issue into age wax okay ignores the real considerations of context, responsibility, and the situation at hand, and it minimizes the concern being raised. Roles and responsibilities matter. Saying, "I wear that too," ignores the fact that public roles come with different standards and expectations. It creates a false equivalence. Just because two people share the same age doesn't mean their situations are comparable. It's like saying, "I'm their age and I drink soda, so a professional athlete should too." Or, "I'm their age and I stay up late, so a student on exam week should too." The comparison doesn't make sense because the circumstances are completely different. Some outfits are criticized not because of the person's age, but because stylists chose something too adultifying, or because there are legitimate concerns about the over-sexualization of teenagers. When people say, "I'm her age and I do that too," they unintentionally normalize choices that might be inappropriate in a public or professional context, even if they would be fine in private. This is exactly why I keep saying that K-pop fans are one of the biggest enablers of systemic problems in the industry. Fans don't just defend idols, they actively defend harmful practices, immoral decisions, and corporate behavior that should never be normalized. And yes, over-sexualizing minors is harmful, no matter how uncomfortable that truth makes people. Companies continue doing this because they've learned something very important. Fans will drop all critical thinking the moment their favorite idol is involved. Morality, ethics, and basic logic disappear, replaced with blind loyalty. What fans think they're doing is protecting idols, but in reality, they're protecting corporations. Corporations that have proven time and time again that profit will always come before the well-being of these artists. When fans immediately rush to shut down criticism, they create a shield for companies. That shield tells executives, stylists, producers, and creative directors that there will be no real consequences. You're not helping idols by doing this. You're actively harming them. You're teaching companies that they can push inappropriate concepts, sexualized choreography, suggestive lyrics, and adult styling onto minors, and fans will still defend it, excuse it, or downplay it. What makes this even worse is the refusal to separate idols from the systems controlling them. Criticizing a company decision is not an attack on an idol. Saying an outfit, concept, or song is inappropriate is not saying the idol is at fault. But fans deliberately blur that line because it's easier to scream hate than to engage with uncomfortable truths. In the end, blind defending sends a very clear message to companies. We don't care if this is harmful. We don't care if minors are being put in compromising positions. We don't care about ethics as long as our idols are involved. And as long as that mindset exists, nothing will change. If you truly care about idols, you should be willing to criticize the systems that exploit them, not protect those systems at all costs. People constantly use that one clip of Daniela adjusting her top to make it look a bit more cropped as evidence that the girls choose their own outfits. But that argument falls apart immediately. It was one clip, in one situation, and it doesn't prove that the members have consistent control over their styling or that they approve every stage outfit they wear. What makes the argument even weaker is that people ignore the obvious. One isolated moment does not outweigh months and months of styling choices clearly made by professionals, not the members themselves. Anyone can tweak something they were already given to wear. It doesn't mean they picked it, designed it, or were comfortable with the overall styling. Then people turn around and say, "I'm her age and I dress like that," as if that somehow proves it's appropriate or reflects the member's actual preferences. That argument collapses completely when you look at someone like Yoonchae. Her stage outfits do not match her personal style at all. If you look at how she dresses normally, her airport fits, casual clothes, behind-the-scenes outfits, it's obvious she gravitates toward modest, simple, comfortable looks. Nothing about her daily fashion resembles the outfits she's styled in for performances or photo shoots. So when people say, "I'm her age and I dress like that," they're not only assuming based on a single clip, they're ignoring the reality that the idols themselves don't dress that way privately. That means the comparison is not only inaccurate, it's irrelevant. Projecting your own personal style onto idols who clearly have very different preferences, and then using that projection to justify outfits that the idols may have zero input on, makes the argument pointless. You can dress like that at your age if you want. No one is stopping you. But that has nothing to do with an idol whose personal style, comfort level, and daily clothing choices are completely different. On top of that, using the "I'm her age" defense ignores the professional context entirely. Stage outfits are chosen for concept marketing, performance, and branding, not because they align with what the girls personally wear in their everyday lives. And now, once idols reach the age of majority and are legally considered adults, many people want to shut down the conversation entirely. The discussion often dies down and it's suddenly considered less important because the idols are no longer minors. But for me, the pattern is clear. Hybe has a recurring problem with how they handle their artists, and it isn't limited to one or two isolated incidents. whether it's done subtly or overtly, like in Nicki's case. They continue to sexualize their underage idols in ways that are inappropriate and exploitative. The fact that this behavior is repeated across different concepts, songs, and styling decisions shows that it is systemic, not accidental. Hybe's decisions are clearly strategic. They know how far they can push boundaries and what will be defended by fans, and they take advantage of that knowledge to benefit themselves financially and professionally. Unfortunately, Yoonchae will not be the last idol subjected to this kind of treatment. It's not only a problem within Hybe, but across the K-pop industry as a whole. The concern isn't just about one individual or one group. It's about a pattern of behavior that consistently places minors in compromising, adultifying, and sometimes exploitative situations. And the fact that it is often overlooked makes it all the more concerning. Until there is accountability and meaningful change, this cycle will likely continue, affecting future idols and perpetuating an industry culture where minors are regularly exposed to situations that are inappropriate for their age.